As promised, the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Rachel Reeves, Chancellor's deputy, joins us live in Westminster now. James Murray, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Busy week for you, of course. The issue at play this morning is a serious one. It is the Chancellor's credibility, because you'll know what her opponents are saying about her, not just her opponent. She is being accused of misleading the public about the scale of the black hole in the public finances she spoke about. Indeed, she's being accused of lying. So a simple question, did she?
No.
She didn't lie?
No, she did not. No, what?
So let's examine, very simple. Let's examine the case that she did. The Chancellor said on November the 4th to the country, 14th, apologies, to the country, as an apparently entirely unnecessary press conference, that because of Brexit, because of Ukraine, because of poor productivity under the Conservative Party, she had no choice but to put up taxes. But that wasn't true, was it? Because by then she knew she was in surplus. The OBR had told her so.
So what the OBR forecast showed at the end of October was firstly that the productivity downgrade was real, that would have a real impact on us, on the public finances, to the tune of some £16 billion. So a very substantial impact. But it was also clear at that stage that we would need to take action to increase headroom, because we needed to make sure we were bringing down the cost of borrowing, that we had that greater headroom to protect us against future shocks. And that's exactly what the Chancellor did going into the budget.
That's not the whole story, is it? It's not just about headroom.
Well, headroom is critical as part of what the government did. And let me just say this, that what the Chancellor said that she was going to do in the budget was to cut the cost of living, cut NHS waiting lists and cut government borrowing. And that's exactly what she did.
Chief Secretary, let's just break down the figures. On October the 31st, as you say, the OBR passed its final pre-measure forecast to the Treasury. They said the government was on track to meet its fiscal target by £4.2 billion. Did the Chancellor tell us that in her November the 14th press conference?
So, Lewis, if I'd been sat here today and the final headroom... No, let me just say this point, because this is important as the counterfactual, if you like. Imagine I'd been sat here today and we'd only had a few £1 billion of headroom. You would have very fairly said to me, that is unacceptable. That does not give you any buffer against future shocks.
Did she at any point reveal that she was in surplus?
Well, when you have forecasts from the OBR and the Treasury, they go back and forth throughout the budget process. No, because there was still measures to submit.
Chief Secretary, she gave the clear impression that there was a significant black hole to the country. The OBR had told her that that did not exist. So why did she do it?
But there had been a significant hit because of the productivity downgrade.
And you'd had better tax receipts.
£16 billion.
You'd had better tax receipts that you did not expect. Therefore, there was no black hole. She gave the impression that there was. She misled the country.
No, there had been a significant hit because of the productivity downgrade. There was a need to increase the headroom to protect us for the future.
Well, that was her choice.
And there was also still all of the measures to go through, so all of the measures to submit to the budget as part of the process.
But it wasn't just about the headroom, was it, Chief Secretary? Because the reason she was in trouble was she chose not to leave herself enough headroom in the first place in the previous budget. Her choice. She had £7 billion to pay for previous U-turns on cutting disability payments and winter fuel payments to pensioners, and the reversal of the two-child benefit cap in the budget would cost another £3 billion. She didn't say any of that. She blamed everybody else, and she suggested there was a black hole that arose because of other people that wasn't the case when it was a result of her decisions. That is why she's being accused of lying.
No, look, the situation at the end of October, when we had that forecast from the OBR, was not a forecast which said, oh, do nothing is an option. Do nothing was not an option.
Well, they don't say anything. Because they don't give recommendations about those things.
Our response to that forecast was that do nothing is not an option.
She could have chosen,
because the headroom was low.
So, Chief Secretary,
the headroom. Now, can I just say this point, Liz? Because the headroom was low because of the productivity downgrade. We needed to increase that headroom to get borrowing costs down, which is a crucial part of what we ended up doing in the budget. And
she
so we had
has
to take
put up
action.
taxes, and we'll get on to this. She has, her critics would say, broken your manifesto pledges and increased taxes on working people. She has done that, people who can ill afford it. She did it because she said everyone would have to contribute a bit more because of this productivity downgrade. But that wasn't true, because the productivity downgrade, though real, had not yielded a sufficient decrease in tax receipts to mean that you were in deficit. Actually, you were still in surplus, and the only reason you were in deficit is because of choices she had made on welfare. She decided to focus on other things to occlude the fact that she had failed to stand up to your own backbenchers on welfare, and that's why you were in deficit.
But you're implying that if we had settled with a few £1 billion of headroom, that would have somehow been acceptable. And I'm saying it would not.
I'm not. I'm saying that...
No, you are, because you are implying that having that few £1 billion of headroom at that final forecast was enough. And I'm saying, Lewis, that was not enough.
She chose.
We had to get headroom up to get borrowing costs down and to put our public finances in a stable position. She was the one who didn't leave enough headroom
for herself in the first place in her first budget. She left very little at that time. That was her choice.
That headroom was after the £16 billion productivity downgrade had been taken into account by the OBR, and that was the position we went into at that final stage of the budget process.
She'd have had 10 billion of extra headroom, which would have meant she wouldn't have had to put up taxes on working people if she hadn't reversed on the 7 billion for disability payments or 3 billion on the welfare benefit cap limit.
No, because those were taken into consideration after the October 30th. No, those were taken into consideration after the October 31st forecast. So the October 31st forecast was just taking into consideration the productivity downgrade from the OBR.
Do you believe in the Nolan principles in public life?
Yes.
So you're aware that two of those are honesty and openness. Do you think the Chancellor has been as honest and open in this process as she could have been?
Absolutely. That's why she gave the speech in early November to say to people...
And she didn't give us the full picture?
No, that's why she gave the speech in early November.
You're saying she was as open in that speech as she could have been. At what point, therefore, did she mention the fact that she had had all that extra tax receipts, all those extra tax receipts that the OBR told her about? Did she ever tell us about those?
Well, look, halfway through a budget process, you don't give a sort of commentary on the individual figures.
She literally gave a commentary in that press conference.
You don't say the individual figures, but you do. But what the Chancellor decided to do was set out the overall challenges.
Picture.
No, she wanted to set out the overall challenges that we faced, the challenges that were very real, and the principles that would guide her going into the budget. And that's what she set out in early November.
Do you accept that you've increased taxes on working people?
I accept that we have said working people need to make a greater contribution, yes.
Therefore, you've broken your manifesto pledge?
No, because what the manifesto said was that we were not going to increase those rates of income tax and national insurance and VAT.
Page 21. Labour will not increase taxes on working people, which is why we will not increase national insurance. Will you accept that more people will be paying national insurance now? Indeed, people will be paying national insurance who never would have done before, working people.
I accept that people will be making a contribution, but that pledge in the manifesto is about the rates.
No, it's not. Chief Secretary, it says very clearly, Labour will not increase taxes on working people, which is why we will not increase national insurance. You have imposed national insurance on working people who would not have paid it before. You have broken your manifesto pledge.
That sentence in the manifesto is about the rates. What does the sentence...
It doesn't say rates. It says, Labour will not increase taxes on working people, which is why we will not increase national insurance.
What does the sentence before that say?
It says Labour will not... It doesn't matter what the sentence before that say. Chief Secretary, it doesn't matter.
Can I take...
No, Chief Secretary, Labour will not increase... I'm sorry, if I'm a working person and I'm reading that, Labour will not increase taxes on working people. You've imposed national insurance and income tax on working people who would not have paid it before as a result of the freezing in the threshold. You have increased taxes on working people.
We have made no changes to the rates of national insurance or income tax that affect working people. We are asking everyone to make a greater contribution, and we're being completely upfront about that, but we are keeping that contribution as low as possible. And the reason why I was asking you, Lewis, what the sentence before that says is because the sentence before that says that Labour will keep the tax burden on working people as low as possible. And the reason...
And then it says it will not increase taxes on working people. So your manifesto was confused.
And we were able in the budget, although we were asking working people to make a greater contribution, the way in which we were able to keep that contribution as low as possible is because of other choices we took around asking people to pay more on income from property, on savings, on dividends, people with £2 million plus houses, gambling taxation. Because of all of those choices, we were able to keep the tax burden on working people as low as possible.
Chief Secretary, can I just play you a clip from the general election campaign? Just listen to this for a second, will you?
The Prime Minister lied in the debate last night. Labour will not be increasing taxes on working people. I am very clear about that. And everything in our manifesto will be fully costed and fully funded.
That was the then Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves saying that the then Prime Minister Rishi Sunak lied when he said that you would increase taxes on working people, something that you've accepted, you've done. So the now Chancellor was wrong and the then Prime Minister was right. Do you think you should like to apologise to Rishi Sunak?
Well, in our manifesto, you've been reading out our manifesto just now, and the manifesto was clear that we wouldn't increase the rates of national insurance and income tax on working people, and we haven't done. What we have done is ask everyone to make a contribution, and that includes working people because of the extension to threshold freezes, but we've kept that contribution as low as possible because of the other choices we've taken over tax, high-value property, property income, gambling tax, and all the other changes we made in the budget.
Rishi Sunak said that you would increase taxes on working people. You have done so. Rachel Reeves accused him of lying. Doesn't she owe him an apology?
No, because look, that point was around the rates of income tax and national insurance, because that's what was in our manifesto.
She's very clear in that clip. We will not increase taxes on working people. She says it explicitly. She doesn't talk about the rates. She says you will not increase taxes on working people. That is what you have done. You have imposed taxation on working people who would not have paid it before. By any logical definition, that is increasing taxes on working people.
But what we were very clear about in the manifesto, and the manifesto obviously was there during the election campaign, is that we wouldn't increase the rates of income tax and national insurance on working people. And we have not done that in the budget that we've just announced.
Wouldn't you be better off,
Chief
Secretary, just to be honest and just say, look, we said that in the election campaign, things have changed, we've changed our policy.
I think what is better off is when we're upfront with people about the choices that we've taken in the budget. And we were very upfront. And when Rachel stood up and gave the speech in Parliament this week, she said, look, we are asking everyone, including working people, to make more of a contribution through the extension to threshold freezers. But she then set out how the other choices we're taking over tax, the fair choices, the necessary choices in other parts of the tax system, will keep that contribution working people as low as possible.
Chief Secretary, the Chancellor told us that she wouldn't raise taxes on working people. She has. The Chancellor told us that she wouldn't need to come back and tax us more in her second budget. She did. The Chancellor told us there was a 30 billion black hole because of productivity downgrades. There wasn't. Credibility literally means to trust. Wouldn't a reasonable person conclude, as her critics are arguing today, that she has no credibility, that you can't believe what she says?
No, because she went into the budget being upfront about the challenges that we're facing, being clear about what we wanted to do in terms of cutting the cost of living, cutting NHS waiting lists and cutting government borrowing, and being clear that everyone would have to make a contribution. And those are three things that all happened in the budget.
Do you have confidence? Do you and the Chancellor have confidence in the OBR?
Well, we think the OBR is a really important institution. Now, obviously, what happened just before the Chancellor stood up to give her budget speech was a very serious matter indeed. The OBR are doing a review and investigation into that. And I think we're due to get that report tomorrow. So I'm sure the Chancellor, the government and Parliament will look at that carefully.
Is the relationship between the Treasury and the OBR broken?
No, it's a solid relationship where we exchange the information during the budget process. And that's part of how we got to the final outcome of the budget by us having the forecast from the OBR and sharing our proposed measures back and forth. As I say, the publication of that document just before the budget was a really serious matter, though. So it's right that they're doing this investigation, and we'll see that tomorrow.
Is the head of the OBR safe in his job?
Well, he was reappointed by the government, by this government. He's reappointed there as a public servant. He's obviously doing this investigation into what happened just before the budget, and that's due to come to us tomorrow. So then the Chancellor, the government, Parliament will have a chance to look at what that report says.
Do you think that the budget process was handled in this budget as well as it could have been? And do you think, and I'm not just talking about obviously what happened on the day, that was clearly terrible, but I mean in terms of the run-up to it and the commentary, have you learned any lessons from the way this budget has been handled and the run-up to it? Will you do anything differently next year, if you're still there?
What would I do differently if I was still there? That's a good question. Maybe read slightly fewer newspapers, because sometimes when you read all of the newspapers, the speculation is quite a lot. So actually,
Treasury did fuel that a little bit, Chief Secretary, wouldn't you say?
No, look, it's the level of speculation was regrettable. Like a lot of that speculation was really.
You don't think that the Chancellor and yourself and your Treasury officials and your SPADs may have fueled that just a touch?
No, look, the speculation from various parts of the media was pretty intense in the run-up to the budget.
You told us there'd be income tax. We were briefed there would be income tax rises, then we were briefed they weren't. I mean, that all came from the Treasury. It didn't come from anywhere else.
No, the Chancellor's speech, in fact, let me just take this head on, because there's quite a lot of commentary about what the Chancellor said in that speech, rather than looking at what the Chancellor actually said in that speech. And what she actually said in that speech in early November is that we have this productivity review going on by the OBR, that we want to cut the cost of living, cut NHS waiting lists, cut government borrowing, and that we also need to take those decisions to make sure we have extra headroom. That was what the Chancellor said in the speech in early November, and that's what we did in the budget.
Chief Secretary, so grateful for your time this morning.